You know what, Jason?
Yeah.
It opened up my eyes. I saw the sign. Episode 109.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 109 of Masters of the Forge has arrived. And with me, I have
horrible.
Jason.
Hi, everyone. The puns are going to be horrible tonight. I can already guess.
Yeah,
I'm
my
sorry. I
microphone
apologize now.
was really close during that first part, so you're welcome, listeners. And I also have Jordan.
How's it going, guys?
Hola! Jordan's talking on his iPhone, which is way better than all the sound that we had in the first 20 episodes. So, boom, there you go. I remember our first episode when we got to interview David Annandale, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to hook up David with my microphone on my headphones, hooked right up to the computer, making sure his sound's good. And I'm like, I'm going to talk into my telephone, and it's going to sound awful, but that's okay. Everybody wants to hear the author. And then I played it back, and I'm like, I sound way better than David, because clearly that's what happens when you buy crappy headphones. So live and learn. One of the many things we've learned doing this show over the years. I guess we should get right into it. Hey, Jordan, who are you? Where do you come from? And I must say that the reason you're here is because you're the only person, you're the most qualified person that I know to talk about the Adeptus Custodes. So, give us your gaming pedigree. Let us know, what you do. What's your idiom?
So I've been gaming about as long as I can remember.
Nice.
I worked in the industry for many, many years between Games Workshop, Battlefront Miniatures, Cool Mini or Not, and got to do something that I loved. And did that, had a blast, but now I'm out working in the real world and have a civilian job and actually getting my hobby back. So getting to put together toys and play with them and paint them and do all the fun stuff that, was work for so long.
Wait a second. Hold on. I didn't know you were legit. So that's... my bad, Jason. We're going to have to cut this off. It's like when we have Jim on and it's like we're kind of like just these douchebags hanging out like with people who actually know what they're talking about. I can't have that. I can't let my star be dimmed by the sun.
Oh, I'm super beer and pretzel gamer.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that I was known for a while is I was the 40K rules judge at a GT back in 2007. I won't say which one. And there were two guys playing, and it was towards the top table. And they were arguing over a rule. And I heard them both out and was like, yes, you are correct. And went to go say something else, and he interrupted me. And I looked at him square in the face and said, dude, stop being a dick. That you are right, and then explained it all. And about 10 minutes later, my boss came over to me and had a fun little talk with me. And then someone from Human Resources came over and had a fun little talk with me. So, yeah, that's, we're playing with toys. Like, don't be that
guy. Oh, fantastic.
So fun in games until HR shows up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, Jordan, you've been hanging out building Custodes, I guess, right?
Yes, I am beard deep in gold right now.
Yes.
I have, at last count for just normal Guardians, I'm up to about 50.
Uh-huh.
Have a couple of Shield Captains. I have 20 of the Aquilon Terminators, which are the Forge World variants.
Uh-huh.
I have the new Illurin patterns from GW, 6. One of them became a Vexillary. And then a handful of vehicles and dreadnoughts. And it took me, I went through probably about 10 recipes for gold before I finally found it.
Nice.
And now that I found it, I'm trying to mass produce them as quickly as I can.
Awesome. And we're going to reveal some of those secrets later on in the episode when we really get into our topic. So I really appreciate you bringing your A game to us on that one, because I think gold is something that people do kind of struggle with, especially as a primary color. As an accent, it's not that big a deal. I mean, people they're like, I'm going to use my crayons, and that's fine. But when it's a primary color, it can be pretty tricky. So that's cool. So I guess we should move on to, I guess I'll go next. What have I been working on? I painted one unit this week.
Yeah.
Super excited about that. I didn't batch paint 100 models. I painted one unit of aggressors and played video games and did a little writing, and that's good. That's good. I'm a lot more relaxed than I was a couple weeks ago, so that's really good. So I do want to talk about the aggressors and what happened with them. So I just sat down. I was like, blah, blah, blah. I know what my paint scheme is, blah, blah, blah. And I started painting them, and I got the white on there, and I got the purple on there, and I, for some reason, decided to do like a black wash over the whole thing, when I mean, clearly I knew, for some reason I was thinking, okay, the silver's on, I need to do a black wash. I had not done my highlights yet on the purple. And it's not supposed to get a black wash, it's supposed to get a purple wash. So I had totally screwed it up. Because there's no going back. You can't put a purple wash over bolt gunmetal or white. Yeah. And I certainly can't do my big light purple dry brush over the whole thing, because that has to be done before any other color goes on. So I had to strip them. So I thought, okay, I'm super impatient right now, and I don't feel like stripping them for real. Plus I had used purple spray paint as my base, and I had already clear coated it one time for the wash. So I'm like, I can put these in acetone. It'll be fine. Wasn't fine. Wasn't fine. Acetone is not... I mean, I figured I could leave it for a couple hours and it would be okay, but it's still not okay. Even without that many layers of clear coat and stuff, it's not a good idea. So some of my edges were softened a little, and it did eat through even the spray paint. But
oh man,
yeah, it's pretty good. So if I had waited any longer, the models would have been ruined. But you can definitely tell when you get up close. You can really tell that the surfaces aren't exactly flat. But it's fine. They're aggressors. It's my space. It's not like an army I really care about. So they're fine. Ow. They look okay from tabletop, and that's really what matters. But, word of warning, acetone, save the acetone for your metal models. Nothing else. It's just not, you're going to have a bad time. If you do use it, dip your brush in it and scrub, just that. Don't dunk it in acetone. I mean, even then, it's probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I think next week I'm going to do Fabius Bile, because I'm going to Disney this coming week. I'll be in Disney when this releases. So, no, will I? I don't know. Anyways, going to Disney for over a week, gonna see my grandparents down in Florida. So that should be fun, but I also am not going to try to get a squad done. So I'll just do Fabius Bile this week, and then I'll paint some intercessors after the next episode. So we'll do that. I really think though, Alexis and I have been scheming to do an Apocalypse game for a long time. And I'm thinking I might do that after I get back. I think we're thinking maybe April or May to get all the orcs on the battlefield one more time.
Oh, Wow. Okay.
And I think I want to try. It would be nice to get all the orcs painted by then, So I've got a Morkanaut, it's going to be a Gorkanaut. A Gorkanaut, like 8 buggies, the new flyer, and some Storm Boys and some Weird Boys. I feel like, I did say I was going to slow my roll, but it would be nice to have all of that done for that Apocalypse game, right?
How many points is she bringing?
How many points?
Yeah, or do we even care?
I think it's like 1,500.
1,500 or 15,000?
Oh, total for the army? Oh, that's the thing. My unpainted models puts me over 30,000 points. Right? Like, I feel like it's almost exactly that benchmark, too. Because I just went through and I recalculated all the power fists down to 13 points. So, got to make up for lost time.
Horse would be proud.
Yeah, it's true. We'll see. I'll at least try to get the yellow on them and get them like airbrushed. I had 3 games since the last time we talked. Played a game with Josh. Played it with his Eldar, with my Eldar against with my Emperor's Children against his Eldar. He whipped my butt. Then I played Bill, who played his Tau. We played 1,500 points, and he had he had 4. It's all a blur. He had a bunch of giant railgun tanks. Fun note. Lucius the Eternal dueled Longstrike.
Oh.
Longstrike's a character, so it's technically a duel. I had 10 attacks that turn, then I died. I actually think Longstrike did kill him. I don't remember. He had 1 wound left, so I think it's actually possible that Longstrike killed Lucius, which is great for Lucius. He's always wanted to drive a tank. Then I had a game against John, also with my Emperor's Children. That was a close one. We're practicing for a tournament this weekend, so it was actually really close. I think it was like 21-20 or 23-20. 25-21? Yeah, something like that. It was really close. Yeah, I'm not sure what... the only narrative I can take away from that is Emperor's Children zoom forward and get shot to death. But hey, that's a thing. My poor Demon Prince, he tried to assault a giant... he tried to assault a Shadow Sword, and apparently there's this stratagem that lets them overwatch on a 5+, and apparently there's another one that lets them reroll hits against chaos, so he died real good.
Okay, so I want to get this codified here. John managed to roll a 5-up.
I know, right? Well, when you have rerolls,
John still managed to roll that 5-up.
Yeah,
that's
he rolled a bunch of them.
He's kind of the king of look at all my ones.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Well, that's just it, Jason. That army is full of rerolling ones. So,
okay. Well, that's probably good for him,
right? Yeah, I know. Yeah. This is his edition. It's his edition to lose, and he will. I assure you. So I'm gonna bring my Emperor's Children to the tournament this weekend, and I'm gonna lose 3 games. It's gonna be super fun. And because I am bringing the Land Raider, because it's just the worst, but it's also got a giant speaker on it, and I'm gonna be the DJ of the tournament. Straight up, don't tell me. It's you and me together. Whoa. What have you been up to in the hobby, Jason?
Wow, that last pun almost gave me an aneurysm. Okay. All right, let's see. What have I been doing? Oh.
Do you smell toast?
So, I'm going to keep going.
Okay, it's not a stroke, so it might be an aneurysm.
Oh, great. That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
As long as I don't smell chocolate, I should be okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So, in the hobby, I got a Land Raider yesterday from Jordan.
Yeah!
I built that last night. It's going to be used both for 30K and 40K. It's for my Raven Guard. So, for 40K, it's the chariot, shall we say, for my Tech Marine.
Nice.
And 30K, it's just there to, punch other tanks in the face. Let's see. So last week I said that I would finish the transfer for the Raven Guard Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
That got finished, and man, I hate putting on transfers, but whatever. I picked up some of the STC Ryza ruins. I don't know if you've seen them. They're like $30 for a box, and they're, I don't know. I don't even want to say that I put them together because they're so, there's not really anything to put together.
Right.
So,
don't you just kind of clip them out?
Yeah, pretty much. And then a couple of them have like grooves, and you just push them into each other, and then all of a sudden you have, right angles and corners.
Oh, is that from the box set or the Necromunda?
No, it's a new box. Huh?
From Necromunda?
No, it's stuff that could be used for Necromunda. Justin from It Will Not Die told me about them.
Uh-huh.
That, it's like, hey, it's, whatever is in Canadian, like $100 Canadian, which is what, $10 here. Whatever. Anyways, I picked up a box, and they clip out, and they're really easy. I put them together the other night whenever I was waiting for.
Oh yeah,
something.
these. Yeah, I've seen these. Yeah, these. Yeah. Oh, these are the ones that come with Moonbase Classius. Moonbase Classius, your finest battlefield in 3 1/4 feet by 5 1/8 feet. Because reasons.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's because they have to fit it fit the pieces in exactly the same box size as a standard model kit. So it can't be 4 foot by 6 foot. It's like almost there. Yeah, it's really funny.
Well, these guys are really easy to put together. It's
nice.
Rather funny. So let's see. I did some airbrushing last week, and this was kind of funny. I did some of the terrain. I built a void shield. I picked one up a few weeks back, built it, did a quick Chaos Black prime, and I was like, let me try this lead belcher primer that I have. So I did kind of a zenithal prime on it, but really light, and it looks really cool, and I'm really happy with it.
Nice.
And then I thought, hey, I finished that. I'm like, I've got that sky shield sitting upstairs, and there's about an hour and a half left of light. Let me go do that. So I ran upstairs, grabbed it. It had been primed before. And so I thought, well, I've got this grading area. I'm going to prime that with the lead belcher. Well, there's overspray that happens. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm still going to paint this thing green because I was thinking I had paint it for my Mantis Warriors. And, I loaded up the green, and I started with the airbrush. And I just happened to go over that silver area very quickly. And everything started sparkling, and thought, I think this might be an Alpha Legion thing. That could work. And so I went ahead and, sprayed everything down again with the lead belcher, then started running through one of the greens I have I think it's from Vallejo. And it had this nice sparkle green color, and so that it's not finished, but I've done a lot of work on it, done some details. Those things have so many details, I have to be very careful about which details do I do. Do I want to hurt myself? So, anyways, that was kind of fun. It also means that, which leads into the next thing, which I'm going to, for my future goal for next week, I'm going to finish building the Raven Guard Contemptor that I have for the CK Studios airbrushing class. And on that base, I'm going to put an Alpha Legion dude of some sort that the Contemptor is stomping, because why not?
Sounds right.
Yeah, and so I'm really happy that I figured out how to do it at the Alpha Legion paint job fairly quickly and fairly easily. So I'm pretty stoked about that. But that piece or that whole dreadnought and whatnot, that's going to be, on multiple builds, I guess, because I'm going to have to put the Contemptor on another base so I can go ahead and paint it and then put it onto the base it's supposed to go onto later.
Okay. So, excellent.
So that was going to be fun.
Just be sure you leave his arms off for the class too.
The arms of the Contemptor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to magnetize all of it because I'm weird. And yeah. Okay. I like playing with magnets.
Nice. Yeah, when whatever. I do the Wazbomb Blastojet, I'm gonna try to have the patience to magnetize because that thing has a lot of options and I have no idea what I want to do with it. So I think it's probably best if I go ahead and just suck it up and build it properly. Yeah. Especially an expensive kit like that.
Just go out and get 3 more kits and build one of each flyer.
Well, that's just what I usually do,
there you
right?
Go.
Like that's usually my MO, but I think this guy's gonna get magnetized. And
I have a game.
And the buggies, I think I'm just gonna build orcs with the special weapons. So like I think I have some Burnas laying around, and I know I have big shooters laying around, and I have rockets laying around. So I'm just gonna build orcs with special weapons and just put them on just either magnetize them to the back or just have them standing on a base and like, yeah, these buggies here. These are, I need a big shooter buggy. All right, I'll put a dude with a big shooter on there. Right. Like,
good idea.
It's easy.
Good idea. That'll keep you going crazy and having to transport a lot more stuff.
Yeah. It'll lower the profile too. So it'll be easier to transport that way. Okay, great. Yeah. So we have a new mini segment.
Hold on.
What?
Hold on.
Oh my God. You have more?
Game.
Oh, you had a game?
Yeah.
What?
I didn't tell you about that?
Yeah, no, you did. I was just doing for the show. I was entertaining the people who are listening, but that's fine, Jason. You can just ruin it if you want. Hey, Jordan, you want a job? Because there's an opening, I'm sure, pretty soon.
I don't think my electro wizardry is high enough yet.
No, that's true. Yeah. That. All right, go on, Jason. Oh, hey, that's why you're here. 2225.
All right, hold on.
So it's anyway, a beautiful life. Oh, it's a beautiful life. Are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, cool.
Right, so
interlude over.
I played a game versus Jesse, one of our local dudes.
Nice.
I took a weird 40k Shattered Legions list.
Sweet.
So I was running like Death Guard Termies. Like this is all my 30k stuff.
Well,
some of it is. So I had Death Guard Termies and basically a lieutenant, and then I had Blood Raven vehicles, which included a Venator and attacks and some tack squads. Then I had a Raven Guard jump pack, group and some tack squad and some other stuff. And this was against his Imperial Guard Space Marines. It has about 3 or 4 tanks. I don't have a lot of anti-tank weaponry. Well, I didn't last week. But
wait, your ventilator kills tanks, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it smashed through one immediately. It just looked at it and went, "Oh, bye-bye." But there were 2 others, and it's like, okay, this is going to be a bit of a problem. But I do happen to have a las cannon Land Raider and a Predator that, for the future.
Nice.
Whatever. So, I also went to Austin last weekend, and I took a list with me. But
Austin, Massachusetts.
Yeah, Austin, Massachusetts. I'm going to go to Austin, Massachusetts, and not go by and see you. There we go. If I ever come near you, I will go see you. Wait, that sounds a little odd. Whatever. It's good for you.
Well, at least it's a lot better than if you see me, you'll come near me. Is it 20? Is that 24, 27? I don't know if that's a beep or not.
I don't know. I'm going to leave it. Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, went to Austin, but I didn't get any games in. I just wandered around the city and checked out hobby and gaming stores.
Cool.
Bothered the managers at GW because that's fun.
I'll be going to Austin at the end of the year.
Yeah, I will be seeing you October.
Sweet.
Hoo-ha.
I don't think we're qualified to say hoo-ah. I feel like that's stolen pride or stolen honor. I don't remember. Anyways, what else did you do in Austin?
Just checked out some game stores. I watched a few games, saw some really nicely painted stuff. I didn't go through and bother people. I just, went to the game stores and found some Girl Scout cookies and,
James will mail them to you.
I know. I know.
John already gave his due. I don't know how many he bought, but apparently he bought a lot.
Man.
Actually, that isn't even hearsay. I just assumed. But I said it like it was truth because in my headcanon, John is a person who buys a lot of Girl Scout cookies, eats all of them, and then buys more. John, you can tell me if I was right or wrong.
Well, I'm sure he'll enjoy the shout out. All right.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah. So now we're on to what our
inaugural Beyond the Fringe segment. This is where if we have something on our mind that we want to talk about, something we want to give a shout out to, that's not Warhammer related. So again, we're gonna put Jordan in the hot seat. Jordan, don't f it up. 2640.
No pressure.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So I have two younger kids. My daughter is 8 and my son is almost 6. One of the things that they've been into lately is making slime. And it's actually super easy to do. It gets horrendously messy so quick it's not even funny. But yeah, it is a blast to do, and it literally is as simple as contact solution, some baking soda, and like a tub of Elmer's glue.
Really?
Yeah.
And you can make it whatever color you want?
Yeah, so they have, they sell, it's an Elmer's glue kit where it's like, it's just like the normal white glue, but it's like sparkly and brightly colored. The pack we got was like a blue, purple, and pink. Looked really cool. I'm actually really tempted to try to figure out how to get one, like lather it across the bottom of a table, let it set and harden, and then like build terrain over it. So underneath it, it has like this glowing, sparkly effect.
Oh, that would be super rad, like a clear plastic or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be pimp as hell.
For the kids, it takes about a half hour to mix it all up, and they can play with it. Lasts about a week, and then you just chuck it.
Yeah, we made our own Play-Doh when we were kids. It's just like, yeah, that's also very simple. I made dinosaurs out of them and played with and had my own like dinosaur community. It was really interesting and very sad. Anyways, thanks, Jordan. I have been watching the Great British Baking Show. So if you are the kind of person who is looking for something to enjoy quiet times with your significant other, and you feel like reality television, or even like a lot of like competition shows, are full of terrible people who you wouldn't urinate on if they were on fire. That would be me. But the Great British Baking Show is full of wonderful people, and every episode ends with a hug. Okay? This show is amazing, and it's full of people with sweet British accents, and there's a really nice... one of the judges is a really nice lady called Mary Berry, and she says nice things about your baking even when you suck. And it's just the best show ever. And the host...
Have you seen...
The hosts no, it's okay. The hosts are amazing. Like, they are really funny.
So what I was going to say is, if you watch when someone's starting to get a hard time, like the camera will stay on it for a minute or two and then it'll cut off. The host will actually go over and start like they'll swear, they'll talk about like brand name products, like rather than these chocolate wafer cookies, they'll say Oreos. And they can't show that, so the camera has to cut away. That way, when someone's having a really hard time, like, you'll see they're having it, but it's not going to be this massive breakdown on international TV. It's just, oh yeah, you know, his cream puff didn't turn out. Oh well, and they go to the next person.
Yep. That is awesome. That is really awesome. Yeah. And yeah, like those hosts are amazing. They're just like so funny and so kind, and that, like you say, I didn't know that about them, that they would like force the cameras off because they mentioned a brand name product. That is so cool. And like they'll help people out, like if they're really having a bad time, like the host might like help mix something or hold something. There was one where it had to be 12 inches high and it was falling over, and it was, you know, they had to go up and present, and the one host just stood there holding it for them because it would fall over otherwise. What? This is fine. It's 12 inches. What? Never mind that I'm standing here holding it. Anyways, that's my Beyond the Fringe pick for the week. Jason, what do you have?
Any novels by Charles Strops, such as a Laundry File series or the Merchant Prince series?
Well, I've heard of that one.
The Merchant Prince series? Yeah. It's a time travel, well, not really time travel, more of a world walking, alternate timeline walking. It's actually 2 sets of novels. So this is what I will read whenever I kind of need a break from reading the 40K stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and he just released something a couple of weeks back, so that was pretty nice to read. I don't know. That's really about it this week. I'll find something else next.
Well, I think the idea is to have one thing. That way the whole show isn't us talking about nonsense. But hey, you know what? It's nice to have nonsense. It's nice to have nonsense. And I think we've kind of been doing it anyways, but I think it's nice to have an official little segment where we can just talk about something that we're passionate about that isn't 40K. Because it can seem like, I don't know, sometimes when you're going on about 40K lore, the eyes glaze over. And it's like, we do have other things in our lives other than 40K, and it's nice to showcase that we're not like single-minded individuals. And so this episode is about Custodes, and thank God we have Jordan here, because this episode would not happen if he wasn't.
That is correct.
We know nothing. I read the codex, but I still it's still better to have somebody here who knows what they're talking about. No pressure. So let's have a break. Come right back. Talk about Custodes in the lore.
I just want to invite you to Frayed Paintbrush Hobby Progress Facebook group. It is a positive group set up to motivate us to hobby and then share it with all the other members. At the beginning of the month, post up your monthly challenge on the page, and then at the end of the month, you post the completed work for all to see. No pressure, just fun among friends. Once again, that's Frayed, Frayed Paintbrush. Hope to see you there.
Oi! After an hard day's shopping, I like to head down to the pub and enjoy a good brew with me mates. Shopping hummies all day is hard smelly work, so's I likes to top myself up with something nice. Chopper body spray is not just a treat for you, it's a treat for the whole crew. Now available in Green Apple Grunt, Illinois After Dark, and Oops Don't Press That Fragrances. Chopper body spray, don't make me axe you twice.
Ours is the duty absolute. Ours is the vigil that must never end. Ours is the timeless honor, the willing sacrifice, the penitence enduring. We stand a watch that will never be relieved, and we stand it gladly out of adoration for he who gave us life, and whose life we must in turn preserve. Too late. We will never earn absolution, For we do not deserve it, but those who believe that would give us pause are those who believe that would give us pause are fools. Shield Captain Tibulus Maxon. I liked that quote because it's, there's a belief, I think, out there, at least before the Gathering Storm, that the Custodes were in a bit of ennui. And actually they kind of were, but this is kind of changing that narrative. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure we'll get into that as we go, but I think that's kind of a major point, which is why I chose that passage.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about the origins of the Custodes, or Custodes, or whatever. I don't know. Custode reminds me of custard, and I'm a little hungry.
And speaking of the Great British Baking Show,
yeah. So I don't know. All right. So they can trace their roots back to the Unification Wars. The Dark Age of technology saw incredible advancements in technology, including genetics and cybernetics, because nothing goes wrong when you play around with genetics.
Yeah.
All right. So disaster struck thanks to advancement in both of these fields. Wow. Who would have thought? Anyway,
hey, didn't they just listen to that last sentence that we talked about?
Yeah,
Nope.
Foreshadowing. So while the birth pangs of Slaanesh,
I wrote that sentence just for you.
Heavens. Oh man, this is going to be rough. All right, while the birth pangs of Slaanesh thrashed the heavens, humanity reeled from its own hubris. Terra was left a barren hellscape. Interestingly, the species only survived thanks to the brutality of a few powerful techno-barbarian warlords.
I like that point. Like the fact that, sure, these barbarian hordes were pretty awful. I mean, think back to our own past, conquering hordes of barbarians, but at the same time, were it not for them, we probably wouldn't have a society in 40K, right? So it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, well, white scars have got to come from somewhere.
Right.
So, yeah. Still, even though they could not be trusted with the remnants of the old wars, which they eventually uncovered from the ruins of humanity's great accomplishments, with the threat of fools with their fingers on the button of total annihilation, the Emperor came to unify the people of Terra no matter the cost. He made the Thunder Warriors from the gene stock available to him. Oh my. Okay. The physically and emotionally damaged techno-barbarian tribesmen. Because that's who you want to give guns to.
That's who the Thunder Warriors are, which is fantastic.
Yeah. In time, the Emperor's ambitions supplanted the Thunder Warriors with new and more refined sons, the Space Marines.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Especially considering, I don't know if this is canon or not, but I was under the impression that the Space Wolves were one of the groups used to hunt down the Thunder Warriors, but I could be wrong.
Well, they probably were. We'd have to. It would be interesting. You know what? Thunder Warriors episode. Ding.
All right, and behind the scenes for everyone. Okay.
All right, cool. So now I'm going to actually just read this quote from the book because I was reading it and I'm like, I can't really paraphrase this. And I think it's probably one of the most important and interesting passages in the book for me. So here it goes. Not even the most knowledgeable of the Imperium scholars can say when the Emperor fashioned the Custodians. The truth is, also, we don't want to paraphrase this because it's kind of bringing to light a lot of stuff, some stuff that we already knew, but the fact that we don't want to get this wrong. Okay, this is literally what GW is saying about the origins of the Custodians. The truth is hidden in crude hieroglyphs and cave etchings, stasis-locked scads of parchment, and gene-sealed tomes that no man can now open. They speak of the towering demigods that strode at the Emperor's side, trusted bodyguards, and wow, I copied and pasted that. Oh no, I didn't. I actually typed it. Trusted bodyguards and respected counselors that he took into his confidence. Custodians fought alongside their master before the walls of the Villa Factor's fortress. They held back the baying flesh packs of the trans-Nordic Reaver tribes. Those guys sound awesome. While the Emperor slew their meat god. He slew their meat god, Jason. That's awesome. Custodian blades took the head of Garsha the Decrier, pierced the heart of the Queen of Atlan, and drove back the iron fiends of the red fields of Prismalia. Or at least so the dying echoes of history suggest. That was awesome. Best paragraph ever. Super sweet. I love that.
Their meat god. Wow.
Held back the baying flesh packs of the trans-Nordic Reaver tribes while the Emperor slew their meat god. I'm pretty sure Snorri's descendants were in there somewhere.
Oh, I'm quite sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask Snorri how his meat god is. While you paraphrase the next section, I'm going to ask Snorri how his meat god is. Snorri. How is your meat god doing tonight? Let's see what he says about that. All right, go on.
Oh, I'm keen to see that. Oh yes, good. It went through Discord. That showed up on my phone. I'm sure if anybody saw what was on my phone right now, they would really be. I'm sure that just triggered flags at my ISP. Thanks.
Good.
So, at the end of the Unification Wars, it was the Custodes who culled the last vestiges of the short-lived Thunder Warrior ranks. There we go. There's my answer. Clearing the way for a bright new future. That future was carved out during the Great Crusade by Adeptus Custodes, of course, but always within arm's reach of the Emperor of Mankind, with the Legio Custodes to act as his right hand, while the Silent Sisterhood formed his left.
It's almost as if they should have been in the same codex.
You know, we're just going to leave that one alone.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that one with anything. All right. Together, they were known as the Talons of the Emperor. In those days, the Legio Custodes were led by Captain General Constantine Baldor. It is rumored that he had been at the Emperor's side since before the end of the Unification Wars. Whether true or not, he was a peerless warrior with unmatched experience on the battlefield. He and his Custodes marched from victory to victory at the Emperor's side. Until the coming of the Horus Heresy, they remained undefeated in battle.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
So, Jordan, have you read much about the Unification Wars and the Custodes and stuff? The Codex was very vague about the details of that. Are there a lot more details in the Horus Heresy about that?
Not a lot.
No. Okay.
In Masters of Mankind, they kind of allude to the same thing. At least that was the impression that I got from it. Mm-hmm. But I think it's one of the things that is intentionally left up to our imagination as to where they are and where they come from. One of the really big things that I don't think the Codex touched on, and I think it was 100% on purpose, they are not psychers at all. They're not blanks, but they are not. They have no propensity for psychic powers. There are no psychers among them at all. That's why the Sisterhood of Silence, the Null Maiden, kind of became that right and left hand. It's also why, as we'll get into, the War in the Webway, why they were there. So I think that shroud is supposed to be there. I think, one, because if we know everything, it's not quite as much fun. And two, I think it also gives us a chance to kind of look at the narrative a little bit more.
All right, cool. So I know that you have a good pedigree in the Horus Heresy, so I'll give my brief spiel on it here, and you can expound upon it if you like. And I know that Jason, you've read most of Master of Mankind as well, and we can have a quick chat about that novel and or at least the events that occurred therein. So although the bulk of the custodians stayed near the Emperor during the events of the Horus Heresy, Valdor and some of his number were involved in some seriously pivotal conflicts, which I think everybody kind of knows about. The whole gonna go get Magnus, that whole freaking disaster that happened. Yeah, thank you, Lehman Russ, for that one. Always a helping little puppy. And then when the war came to the throne world itself, the Custodes did not flag in their duty. They faced a deluge of empiric threats, traitors of all kinds, war machines, but along with the fighting alongside the Imperial Fists, it was not enough to bring down the walls of the Imperial Palace. Unfortunately, Daddy still got pimp slapped up on up in orbit. That we don't yet have kind of the details of that whole thing. I'd be very interested to. Well, I'm sure we'll all find out, how that went in detail as the novels are released. So, all right, what do you guys think? The War in the Webway is certainly a whole nother section of, and it explains why Daddy was so pissed at Magnus, and it helps that the Custodes were actively involved in that. It makes sense that they would be part of the. It makes sense that they would be part of the group that goes to get Magnus anyways, but at least they kind of understand what happened, right?
Yes, and they were also there, from my understanding. It's been a while since I read Master of Mankind, so if I foobar this, I apologize.
It's all right.
But he, when Magnus appeared and was like, "Oh man, you won't believe what Horus did," Tzeentch found out where the Webway was and started the war in the Webway. But they were there. They saw what he did. It's kind of that whole, if, the Emperor had told the Primarchs about chaos and all of that, would it have prevented this? But they were given a very clear edict of, hey, don't do this thing. And then all of a sudden, Magnus pops up. Hey, I'm here, Dad. Oh man, you just did the thing. That, and they don't, from kind of the feeling I've gotten behind it, they don't have that same father-son relationship. They are the sworn protectors. They are, almost honor incarnate. And Magnus broke this rule. So to them, Magnus did do something wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that was why, it was so important for them to go. And it was also, at the time, the Inquisition now, they're the bearers of the word. When an Inquisitor speaks, that's the Emperor speaking. I'm under the impression that that's the exact same for like Shield Captain. If he shows up, he is the Emperor's word. You don't get to question that. And then, a couple weeks ago on Warhammer Live, someone asked Phil Kelly if an Inquisitor and a Shield Captain are arguing, who wins. And Phil Kelly just kind of was like, yeah.
Everybody does what they want.
Yeah, and it was kind of that whole thing of, they both have very different reasons. They both have the authority, but, at the end of the day, the Custodians all they want to do is serve the Emperor and be that perfect soldier.
Right. And I think, that's so interesting. That's kind of a microcosm of the Imperium as a whole. Anybody who works in a very large organization, some people are going to say government. It's like, well, not just government. I've worked in big businesses and governments, and it happens in both, where you have all these little Indians or all these little chiefs and not enough Indians. And it's like, what do nobody knows what one hand is doing. What's that phrase? One hand doesn't wash the other.
The left hand doesn't know.
Doesn't know what the right hand
doing? Whatever. Nobody knows what's going on, and everybody thinks they have the authority to make decisions, and decisions happen in parallel with each other all the time. And it's just not, it's not a great look. Lots of bad things happen when everybody thinks they have the authority to make a choice, and multiple choices are made that contradict each other. Not good. Not good.
So one other thing I was wanting to say about the Horus Heresy and the Custodians before we wander off. There were, I think, a group of 10 Custodians that were sent with Korax to guard him while he was rebuilding the Raven Guard. And they kind of, I'm rereading one of the novellas for Korax now, and they show up, and I had completely forgotten that they were in there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of cool. They are just there pretty much as protectors. I don't remember them having a lot. It wasn't they have anything to do with the story. I just remember them driving the story.
Mm-hmm.
Although it has been a while since I've read it, and I'm rereading it now, so there may be more than that. So no one send me any hate mail.
Were there flying rhinos in that story? Because that's what I'm excited about.
No. There were not, because the Raven Guard would have been all over that.
Yoink!
Yeah.
Nice. I just keep on thinking of the picture that I think it's in one of the Dark Heresy books, like one of the campaign books.
Yeah.
And it's just this awesome golden flying rhino, and I'm like, I want one. Just make it happen.
In Watchers on the Throne, there's a trio of them. Spoiler. Oh, wait. Spoiler. Sorry.
It's got to happen.
It's been out a year.
It's been out a year. Yeah, it's got to happen soon. It's got to happen. We got to be getting those flying rhinos soon. And that's going to be super sweet. Okay, so you know, I had a hard time. I know GW breaks up these books so that they give you kind of a smattering of who they are, and then they give you the history, and then a more of a smattering of who they are, and then they do like events and stuff. It's all very confusing. So we're going to take a little pause here and talk a little bit about who the Custodes are now, like what they've developed into.
Do you want me to read that first segment?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Because I have some questions about this segment as I read it.
Okay, go ahead.
So the Custodes can be considered the sons of the Emperor every bit as much as the Primarchs. The arcane process of the creation of these effectively immortal beings is known only by a secret circle of...
Whatever.
Oh, great.
Whatever. It doesn't... Surgeons? Sturgeons.
Sure. How about this? What do they call them? Hacksaws? Yeah. Anyway, in the Imperial household, even the High Lords do not possess the right to demand such secrets. The process of becoming a custodian is arduous, and as such, rarely more than 10,000 exist in the entirety of the Imperium at any given time.
In active duty. So, that's very important to understand that part of that.
Oh,
in active duty. We'll talk more about that later.
So I guess... they're still creating them?
Yes.
I mean, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm still, I have not read this book, so I don't know what's going on.
That is definitely a thing, Jason. That's not ambiguous in this book. I don't know if it was ambiguous before, but it's not ambiguous now. They're definitely still cranking them out.
Okay.
Now, when I say cranking them out, the process is a bit much. Go ahead, read more, because you'll see.
Okay. A custodian is raised from infancy. So rigorous and dense is their training that no time can be spared. Their mind must be indoctrinated, and their soul must be purified for the trials every custodian is expected to endure with unwavering stoicism. The nobility of imperial society has been afforded the honor of offering their own progeny for service in the Adeptus Custodes. When the time comes for a new generation to be indoctrinated, the noble houses line up for days to present their children to the Custodes, while throngs of supplicants gather to observe these rituals.
So this has gotten people in a bit of a tizzy, because to say that only like to say that only the nobility are allowed to become custodians, it very much smacks of old like British like imperialism, and it's definitely not very modern, but at the same time it is Warhammer 40,000, right? Like, so
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Jordan? What were your thoughts on that passage? Because I think that is fairly new, right?
Yes, as far as I know, that is. For me, it makes sense with where the universe is currently. I'll keep making references to it. The Watches in the Throne, I absolutely loved. It's actually the reason why I decided to start a Custodes army. But in there's a scene where an Inquisitor or two Inquisitors are basically chasing each other. And while doing so, they're running through this, they're like weaving in and out of these lines just to see these holy relics. And there are people who will be born and die in these lines before they ever see where they're going. So with, the Imperium having become so religious and having it become very formal, I can see where this is tying into it. Going back to the Beast Arises series, they were very upset with the direction that this was going because it was so closely removed to, the Horus Heresy and, the Emperor's true vision.
Yeah.
And then, the Beast Arises kind of shows us, like, we got to see inside the throne room and how much of an S show it had become.
Yeah.
And as it spilled out from there.
And so we got to see like how what's his name? Vulcan reacted to it. Right. That was one of the great things. Like you got his impressions from the inside out. And then later with Guilliman and his reactions to it, they are self-aware about what has happened, where the rest of the Imperium is kind of intentionally, they're in it. They're born in it. So how it's normal for them. But with those characters, we can kind of get, even though they're superhuman, we can kind of relate to them because of them being outsiders to the Imperium as it is now.
Well, and as weird as it sounds, I think it actually gives a little bit of humanity to the Primarchs, who are very much not human.
Yes.
There's very little humanity in them, but they get to see they fought against their brothers. They had hundreds of thousands of their sons killed. How many worlds died to have this dream empire where, everything was perfect. That all shattered, and it's pretty much the pendulum swung the other way.
Yeah.
That was, again, Watches of the Throne. Guilliman was pissed because he wakes up. He's like, I got to go talk to my dad. And he makes the trip to Terra, lands on Luna, grabs a bunch of Grey Knights, comes to Holy Terra, walks into the palace and be like, I need to speak to my father, everyone out. And all of the custodians left the inner chamber. I believe Valdor was there for a while before he left, but there were several days where it was the Emperor and Guilliman alone, quote, talking.
Yeah.
So I can, going back to kind of them making more custodians. Yes, I think that ties in very, very well to the lore, and it speaks to the status of the universe and the Imperium as a whole.
Right. Did you get to read the other novel, the Guilliman novel? What is it called again, Jason? I forget. We did it with the author.
Dark Imperium?
Dark Imperium
with Guy Haley.
Did you get to read that, Jordan?
That was one of the ones that I have it, and I keep meaning to read it, and other books pop up, and
the end. Okay, well, clear. I assume you skipped that episode, so I'm not going to spoil it. But
no, I've listened to it.
Oh, you did? Okay, so the whole the whole thing where, like, does the priest asks, does he love us? And And Guilliman lies and says yes. Like he's like, he thinks back on his conversation with his father and says, yes, he does love you. And it's like, wow. That whole section, like that whole book, all the fighting and all the, all the historical events that are happening and all the Primaris Marines and all that stuff. All of that stuff pales in comparison to like the stuff that we had revealed about what his conversation with his father was like, because that reveals so much about the Emperor's state of mind right now, or lack thereof. So anyways, let's talk a little bit more about the Custodes process of becoming. Aspirants receive this very esoteric classical training regimen that we hear that a lot of Space Marines do, but these guys, they get it early on at a very advanced pace, even for Astartes. The Custodes are, they have to be kind of above and beyond. 1 in 1,000 survive the process. So of the nobility, some folks have balked at this. You got to remember how many people there are. Okay.
Yeah.
In the trillions of humans, and there are probably even millions, if not billions, of nobility in the galaxy to serve up as custodes.
Yeah.
So only 1 in 1,000 makes it. And they cover lots of topics that a custodian they have to master, because it's a throwback to back in the day when the custodes weren't just the protectors of the Emperor, they were his companions. Like, they were people he would talk to. They were people that he would bounce ideas off of. So they had to be on top of their game, so that when the boss had something to talk about, that they weren't just a blank wall that would say yes sir,
Yeah.
Whether it was philosophy or science or whatever. Like, and a lot of the times those kind of things, they tie together. Like, you want to know the social ramifications of your science, right? So yeah, that's kind of the important thing. So that's very much a throwback to those old times, and I would assume that it makes them better at their job. To understanding history and sociology and religion and stuff, that's got to make you a better leader, a better soldier. So the mental training also has a secondary purpose. It actually weeds out those who are not up to the task, because the Custodes have this very unique, at least prior to the Dark Imperium, they had a really tough job, which is stand there and do nothing for weeks on end.
Years on end.
Yeah, it's like without rest. Like, I mean, I can understand, it's a tough job for a space wolf to go out and fight monsters and fight heretics and fight and take out their own kind. That's hard. That's mentally taxing. You know what else is mentally taxing? Sitting in a cubicle for your entire adult life. Right? Like, that's the worst. I think I'd rather face the danger. I'd rather face the peril. No, it's much too perilous. Nope. I'll be fine. I'd rather have the peril, thank you. Another point that they made was about a custodian's birth name. I think I've heard about this with some Space Marine chapters too, where they every great deed that they perform, they etch it onto their armor, and it becomes part of their name. And by the end of it, their name is like super long. I think that's really interesting and poses a very, let's say, insane hobby progress goal for all the Custodes players out there.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, they talk about that in a couple of the different Custodes short stories and whatnot, that here's, my name, and it's a couple of hundred words long, and, they don't even go by it. They have a shortened name they use.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe that's what I was thinking of. Back in the old 40K radio days, they were talking about, they were probably talking about a couple of the stories that the Custodes have been in.
Yeah, there aren't many, but there are a couple. I'm trying to remember. There was one of them where a custody was trying to infiltrate the palace, and that was the entire,
I want to say that was
thing.
Blood Games by Dan Abnett?
Probably. That sounds about
maybe.
Like it. I'd have to look at my phone and see. But it was really good one. I remember liking that one. All right, so next up, a custodian's equipment is designed specifically for them. There are generations of master craftsmen who have lived in the Imperial Palace for centuries, probably millennia, but whatever, whose only purpose is to squire for the Adeptus Custodes. Every piece of equipment is painstakingly handcrafted and unique to that warrior. All of it is the very best the Imperium has to offer, much of it completely irreplaceable. From their indomitable Aramite armor to their deadly guardian spears, which are mounted with sanctified master-crafted bolt guns.
Boom.
That's pretty cool.
That's super sweet.
Yeah.
I have yet to figure out what Aramite is. I couldn't find it in the Codex. Anybody have any idea what that crap is? It's like
Space gold.
Is it unobtainium? Space gold. I love it. Yes, space gold.
I've yet to see what it actually is, but that's just it's just space gold.
Gold pressed latinum.
There we go.
There we go. I like it. So there are many sub-factions of the Custodes because that's what we're doing now. We're spreading these out so everybody can kind of have their own unique flair for their army, which is super good. Everybody likes that. The first one is the coolest one, in my opinion. It's one that everybody's talking about now that the Codex is out, and that's the Eyes of the Emperor. So when a custodian notices that his reflexes are slightly off, kind of like Legolas from the Lord of the Rings when the drink is just starting to affect him. Like that kind of thing. He decides, I'm going to retire. He hands over all his stuff and says, peace out, and he becomes one of the Eyes of the Emperor. Traveling the galaxy, keeping an eye on things, and alerting the Custodes when something goes wrong or when something needs their attention. So how many of these jerks do you think are wandering the galaxy? Like, I'm thinking lots.
Maybe.
Because they're effectively immortal. The book says that multiple times. Jordan, would you like to guess at the number of these jerks that are still around?
Oh, in the thousands, easy, if not higher. Because unless you die in combat, you're not going to die. You are, for all intents and purposes, the perfect soldier. Yeah, galaxy's going to. Sorry, time.
107.23. Boom.
So it's, the poop's hitting the proverbial fan. Like, they're still the Eyes of the Emperor. They're going to go fight when they need to. So I think that there's a lot you can do with it. I was hinting to someone earlier today that, he was talking about wanting one of these for his Inquisitors. Jason.
Yeah, I know.
But that's, so it's kind of one of those things that can fit in. I don't know if anyone here is a Star Wars fan and watched the animated series, the Clone Wars and Rebels. I'm kind of imagining the same thing. When they go out and they find Rex out in the desert.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I saw that episode.
It's him and 4 other clones that after they realized one of their brothers basically got killed before Order 66 was issued, they went and cut out their little implant chips that would tell them to kill Jedi, and they went off into the desert all on their own. They were still loyal to the Jedi Order because they were the perfect soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
So little tangent there, but it's kind of the same thing. Like I can imagine like there's just this little group of, 3 or 4 dudes living up on the mountain. Oh man, here comes some Necrons.
What I would love to see is a custode or a custodian or a space marine who cast away their responsibilities and raise a family somewhere. That would make the 40K community lose their minds. I would love it. Love it. So the next one I want to talk about are the companions. These are the 300 custodes who guard the Emperor directly. So this is the big one. This is the job, right? This is the one that requires the most incredible patience and mental endurance. Like the best of the best is where these guys are in their lives. My note here is leave it to Warhammer 40K to embrace the idea of the galaxy's most laudable heroes being those with the fortitude to endure soul-crushing boredom. It's legit. Like that's 40K. Welcome to the lore. And then we have the shadow. Go ahead.
Well, nothing gets more grimdark than sitting at a desk all day.
Oh, God, tell me about it. Jesus Christ.
But really quick, so the companions, they are, for anyone who plays the Horus Heresy, they're the Heteran Guard. Those are, in 30K, they're the elite level troopers. They get kind of some of the fancier toys and better stats, but this is who they are now. They're not... There were some people originally when, we were kind of finding out who was going to be what that were upset that there was not a named Heteran Guard unit now, which I think is very easily done with Wardens, different paint scheme and suddenly, boom, there they are. But these are, like you were saying, they're the elite of the elite. They are the best of the best. Again, in Watchers of the Throne, there's actually one of the main characters is trying to become one of them. And it's about the struggle he goes through. Because again, spoilers, he can't do it and gets rejected. And they're like, yeah, actually, you're not good enough. You can take the test again in a couple 100 years, but for right now, go back to your duties.
Right. And I think that it's no coincidence that there are 300 of them.
Oh, yeah, no.
Clearly. So then we have the Shadow Keepers. They keep watch over the darkened vaults beneath the Imperial Palace, ensuring the horrors of the long night do not find a way in. It is a lonely and terrifying task that no other mortal could long endure. I'm Casey Kasem. And so I imagine this must be... I'm imagining Stanley Kubrick's film The Shining, where you just have one guy and, okay, maybe not his family, but like this one guy wandering the empty halls of this clearly haunted building and slowly losing his mind because of it. Now, the Custodes don't lose their minds, but they should, because can you imagine like all of these, the shadows of these demonic incursions that have occurred, could occur, and do occur. And I think people look at the models of demons and it can be very cartoonish, but I can't imagine. I try to think of things like the mythos stuff that we read, and I just try to imagine how I felt as a kid when I was stuck in situations like that, like alone in the house and the lights go out and I have to go flip the circuit breaker, that kind of thing, right? When you have just a basement full of old things that no one has touched in years, and you have to walk through it all, like going through cobwebs and like and you're like, if I can only make it to the circuit breaker. And when you finally flip that circuit breaker and the light, someone has left a light on down there and there's just something in a weird shape that makes you piss yourself, like that is their entire day, right? Like, except, instead of the innocence of a child and their imagination, instead it's actual demonic entities that can mess you up real bad. So
well, like you were talking about The Shining. Imagine that, but instead of a really nice hotel, it's a prison.
Yeah.
And it's filled with Chaos Space Marines. It's filled with, all sorts of Eldar and demons. And part of their job is to let them out for blood games. So it's like, oh man, hey, Jimmy should be back any time now. So go ahead and cut loose that Black Legionnaire. Yeah, it's okay. No, give him his weapons too. Yeah, we'll be fine. But that's part of their job. So it's just like it's baffling to think that part of their job as jailers is to literally be like, okay, time to let this guy out, and then just let him run out of the cell.
Yep. Or Cypher, who just leaves because he's that cool. He's like,
he's like, guys, I got places to go. I'll be back.
Yeah.
I'll let myself in. Don't worry. I know the way.
He has the ultimate get out of jail free card.
Well, the fact that he's Cypher and he's escaped twice.
Yeah.
If not more times. So clearly.
And technically he only went back the second time because he wanted to.
Oh yeah, clearly. He's like, oh.
Well, he left behind his favorite pair of, underwear and wanted to get back, I don't know.
I'm not in the habit of leaving my underwear places, but okay, Jason. Now I did accidentally go to work without a belt or underwear, which is a terrifying prospect when you're losing weight. Like that's not a good combination at all.
No. Yep. All right, so now we're going to wander off to something else. So we're going to talk about the Aquilan Shield, which is a group of custodes who offer themselves as bodyguards for other important individuals in Imperium society. That could be interesting. There's some narrative possibility there.
There are, especially if you're planning on using your custodes as like allies, and you're gonna sprinkle some custodes in your army. That's a good. You could probably paint those guys as Aquilan shields.
Yeah. Is there like paint schemes for these?
Yes.
Okay, there are. Okay.
Some of them are super sweet, dude.
Yeah, the Aquilan shields are the white custodes that have started popping up on Facebook as we actually get an official, paint scheme for them. And then the Shadow Keepers are the ones that wear the black clad armor.
And I think they have red accents, right? Those guys?
Yep.
Yeah, it's super
that's
rad.
Nice.
Those guys
that's
are
cool
badass.
To see something like that, like, almost like chapters.
Yeah, they're the Dementors of 40K. That's what they are.
Oh, good. We're bringing in Harry Potter, too.
Well, I thought I'd go for the hat trick.
Why not? Yeah, because we already got Star Wars in here. Yep. So, have we gotten Star Trek in yet?
I'll think of something.
No, but we did get Lord of the Rings earlier.
We did.
Okay, well,
we did.
There we go. Okay. Good. That makes me happy? I don't know. Anyway, the Dread Host. The embodiment of the Custodes as they were when they fought beside the Emperor during the Great Crusade. They are not the calculated spear point. They are a hammer blow against the enemies of the Imperium. That's pretty cool.
Yes, they're actually they're the crusading custodes.
Yeah. I'm assuming they have their own paint scheme, or
I think those guys are the gold ones, like the actual like custodes, right?
Yes. Well, they have the gold body armor, like most of them, but they have the black on their shoulder pads, and then occasionally either like their greaves or their hip plate, and then they have white accents with red cloaks.
Yeah, but having said that, don't forget, like, every piece of armor is unique, so feel free to just bling these guys out however you please.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
And with how, look at, going back to some of the narrative when it talked about their names, all it takes is a shield captain to be like, all right, guys, we're doing our thing. We're out here doing insert your narrative. We're going to set ourselves apart by doing X, Y, and Z.
Yep, and that happens a lot in like other narratives. Like I think back in the day, right, Jordan? Like back in the day, didn't GW used to do a lot of these guys are the paint scheme that this chapter used when they were on this campaign, and then when they were on this campaign, this is the paint scheme they used.
That's I mean, that's going way back. But back in Rogue Trader, they used to, they would, and even a little bit in second edition, depending on where they were, they would have like, here's their Pacific uniform, here's their European theater, here's, this part of, this is the northern Stalingrad, this is the southern Stalingrad. And it gave a way for people who wanted to paint their Ultramarines green
or camo,
they could paint them green.
Or go ahead.
The Mantis Warriors have a Tranquility camo.
Yep.
That if you want to paint yellow, be my guest. That's what you can.
I remember us talking about that when we did the Mantis Warriors, and that's something that they have in BattleTech all the time. Like you have parade schemes, and you have this is the scheme that they used when they were fighting against so and so, or the House Karita always paints their battle mechs up in this color when they fight this specific enemy because I don't know, there's some kind of weird honor thing with fighting that enemy or whatever. So it's all very interesting, and it's something that you can, not just with your Custodes, but if you wanna do that with one of your other armies, go ahead, go for it. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Then we have the Solar Watch, the definitive Adeptus Custodes who keep their sights set laser focused on the homeland. They do more than just stand watch, of course. For example, they have actively infiltrated the Phalanx, well as undergone repairs. They do this to ensure the Astartes who man her do not turn against the Imperium at the wrong moment.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
Well, it's a giant F-all station, spaceship fortress thing full of death and destruction, and it's basically a Death Star, and we're going to trust...
And Cypher uses his personal playground.
Yeah, and I think I like that little piece because it highlights the mistrust the Custodes have for the Astartes.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a safe bet.
Yeah. Do you guys think that in the, what was that novel? The other modern novel? Was any of that highlighted? Like the Custodes, are they kind of leery about the Adeptus Astartes at this point?
From what I remember, there wasn't a lot of interaction between the two.
Okay.
It was, they were there, and there was some ease when Gilliman showed up because, well, what do we do now? Kind of feeling.
Yeah.
But there wasn't, they definitely, you could feel that it's, we're the protectors. That's who we are.
Right.
And you guys are the soldiers. You guys, do your thing.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody has their purpose, sort of.
Yeah.
And actually, I just realized I made a mistake. The Solar Watch, they are the ones who wear the white body armor with the red accent.
Oh, okay.
The Aquilon shields are the gold with the purple robes and purple on their shoulder guards.
Purple makes a lot of sense for that role, though. Purple is always kind of that wise advisor, almost royalty type color. So that makes a lot of sense for that purpose.
That's why I was thinking about it. I was like, I think I messed up.
It's all right.
So,
don't worry, I do it all the time.
Yeah. And then we have the Emissaries Imperatus. They direct the word and the will of the Emperor across the Imperium. For example, during the Indomitus Crusade, it is the Emissaries Imperatus who assist Guilliman in delivering Primaris gene seed to far-flung locations in the Imperium. So again, these guys can be add-ons to your army. That would work for them, but they're really meant more from a lore perspective.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about how the Custodes are used by the Imperial agents. So we've got a Captain General, and that guy acts as like this military proxy of the Emperor himself. So he's in charge of the whole thing, direct line. He might as well just be the Emperor as far as the Custodes are concerned. There is a very specific process, which ascends other veteran custodians to the level of custodian tribunate. which is a group of 10 warriors who serve as the Captain General's advisors. Now, they're still just shield captains, right?
Yeah.
Like they're kind of a council almost of shield captains, at least as far as I can tell from what's written there. And then after that, it's hard to explain. Custodes are not a regimented fighting force like the Space Marines. They're not intended to be. And even though we have a codex for these guys, Games Workshop has been very careful not to make them just badass Space Marines. Each one is an army in and of himself. So unlike, let's say Grey Knights, right? Grey Knights are still an army. They're still a fighting force in squads and units. Whereas the Custodes are all fighters in and of themselves. They're meant to spread out and they'll take on entire units on their own, right? Like that's what they do. And I feel like the rules do kind of do a pretty good job of exemplifying that personally. But in reality, like every custodian is his own person. It's not really there's not a huge command structure in the Custodes. Do you guys think that's accurate? Has that always been that way, do you think? Or there's not really much in regards to like Horus Heresy or anything in the Codex?
I don't remember. I mean, since they started becoming their own entity, I don't remember anything before then about it.
Right.
But now it's written where it is, they are their own warrior. They are their own self. Mm-hmm. They don't train in squads. They train on their own. Yeah. When they are called to fight, they know how to. You know, I think it's something that probably they do train occasionally together in, you know, certain maneuvers. Yeah. But for the most part, I get the impression of, okay, I'm going on a mission. You know, I'm the shield captain. I want Alvarez. I want, this guy. I need this guy and this guy. Let's go. Mm-hmm. Like they're part of the same shield, but it's okay in this mission. I need to take these 10 guys with me. Yeah. And they jump in their ship, they go out, they kick ass and come back.
Right. All right, cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I like that sets them apart from the Astartes. That's because they have to be. Every kind of faction that we have rules for, I think, needs to feel very unique. And I really feel like this army does feel very, very unique in how it works. The fact that it doesn't really have any psychers is another, it's another mark in its uniqueness. So let's move on, continue talking about the lore. I want to talk about the age of the Imperium here, because I think there's been quite a bit that's been expanded upon in the lore in the past, in this codex and in the recent novels. So Jason, why don't you take the first couple up here?
All right. So, and I find this really interesting as I was reading through it. The Custodes donned black shrouds of mourning for millennia while guarding the corpse emperor. Was that in the book, or was that just you?
It's just me having fun.
Okay, just checking. While guarding the corpse emperor upon his golden throne, where his essence directs the machinations of his mighty zeitgeist.
Boom, zeitgeist.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. If you have even gotten close to the Sanctum Imperialis, perhaps an Eldar here or there, because why not?
Because that wasn't a novel.
Yeah, that wasn't a novel. It was a series of novels, actually. But yeah, here we go. But none have penetrated the Emperor's chambers themselves.
Phrasing.
Yeah, I know. I left that one alone, too. So the Custodes' failure upon the vengeful spirit have thus far been a singular occurrence. Nevertheless, Constantine Valdor disappears sometimes during the scouring, never to be heard from again. So I wonder what's going on with him, if he wandered off, or does he, I don't know.
We're waiting for a model to come out.
Yeah, okay, fine. That's actually what Wait a minute. Was that revealed
It was.
last
He
week?
was revealed and put on sale at the Horus Heresy Weekender.
Yeah, but
Okay,
we need a
so,
plastic
yeah.
one with a bushy beard. He's gonna run. And he's like, "You'll be fine. It's your kids, Marty, or it's your kids, Morty. Something's got to be done about your kids."
Okay, and there we have Back to the Future. We really are bringing the non-40K out tonight.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So the Adeptus Custodes have not been completely without momentum. They use fractal thought exercises, imagination, and hallucinarium mock combats to keep their skill zoned.
That sounds awesome. I think that's like what they use with the space. A lot of times, like they'll use that as the final trial for a space marine to become a space marine, to like put them through a bunch of scenarios where they have to make the right choices or whatever.
That's not a bad idea. The next part is kind of what I was actually about, similar to the story I read earlier. The Custodes also famously engage in blood games, where one of their number attempts to infiltrate the Sanctum Imperialis while the others must capture him. And that one's pretty cool. I'm trying to remember the name of that short story, but it was really quite fun.
It's Blood Games.
It was Blood Games? Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So cool.
I'll have to go back and reread that one. That one was a fun one.
Yeah, the Custodes are also responsible for a number of daily activities, of which only their peerless awareness is capable. For example, every petitioner allowed before the Emperor and every psychic vessel drained to sustain the Emperor is subject to their scrutiny. So they're not only are they like standing in cubicles all day waiting for the Emperor to fart, but they also have to engage in soul crushing DMV style work, which God, I sure hope the hours are better than like 9 to 5 on weekdays, because let's be honest, if I want my soul drained by the Emperor, I damn well better be able to do it off hours. Anyways, the Custodes are also... Oh, I already read that. You're next. I'm tired.
In addition, I'm assuming that's where we are.
Yes.
The Custodes have, for 10,000 years, fought secret wars against forces that would have corrupted and rotted the Imperium from the inside out. Heretic, Xenos, and Loyalists alike. Oh, that's great. Well, you gotta have short stories for the Dark Angels,
yeah, there's
right?
some interesting things in there about how they had to kind of... They are not there to protect humanity. They're there to protect the Emperor. That's a different story, and those are two different things. And a lot of the time, you might get loyalists who are against the will of the Emperor, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second.
So it was the Custodes, for example, who squashed the efforts of the Illuminati on Terra?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Very interesting. Some old lore there. So they're not necessarily required to bend to the whims of the other High Lords. If they deem a request to be counter to their mission. They're one of the few groups to hold the power of the Magisterium Lex Ultima, the power to multipleize the defenses of Terra against threats both external and domestic. Other Adeptas might balk at this, but the Custodes have never been found wanting. The same cannot be said for everyone else. Clearly. I mean, didn't we have a whole holy war about that?
Just one.
Yeah.
Just one. There we go. All right, so that's the, Age of the Imperium. And, of course, now we are in 8th edition, which means we have now entered the Dark Imperium.
The Dark Imperium.
Jordan?
What?
Yes.
You want to say the Dark Imperium?
Dark Imperium.
Ooh,
there we go.
That was a nice one.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? All right. At the end of the 41st millennium, oh man, Trajan Trajan Valoris.
Is it Trajan or
instated-
Trahan or Trahan?
Well, it could be Trajan.
I should have listened to the freaking stream.
I believe it's Trajan.
Okay.
That's how I've heard a lot of people pronouncing it. And you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb. If Ash Barker is going to call him Trajan, we can call him Trajan.
All right. Sounds good.
I call him Trava. Anyway.
T-Money.
T-Money, there we go. All right, so he's instated as Captain General. Under his command, the Custodes are more proactive than they have been in millennia. They serve to interdict inbound threats and purge homegrown problems throughout the Terran system and beyond. The same events which brought about the return of Robo-G also brought the, I'm not calling him by that name, Cicatrix Maledictum, a tear in the fabric of reality across the galaxy. The resonation of this horrible event caused the Astronomicon to convulse, sending shockwaves of warp distortions throughout the bones of old Terra. Wards which had once protected the Imperial Palace were shattered, and fell beings flooded into its corridors to do battle with the Custodes who stood watch.
Boom.
Yay!
So awesome. I can only imagine, like, we could do a really cool, like a campaign, like what do they call it? Like underground combat. What was it called again?
Oh, Zone Mortalis.
Zone Mortalis?
That would make a sweet ass Zone Mortalis campaign. Custodes versus demons. That would be badass. I would love to play in that.
Yeah.
And you could come up with some really beautiful terrain. There's a ton of like Mansions of Madness style terrain out there that you could use for the Imperial Palace. That would be super sweet. So adding to that danger, the ruinous powers sent waves of Khorne warriors against the palace's mighty bulwarks. So this is that whole section from the Dark Imperium where Khorne and some demon princes of ill repute tried to assault Terra, and that was a bad call on their part. The Awakening of Guilliman.
You're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, you're going to have a bad time. So the Awakening of Guilliman and the spread of the Cicatrix Maledictum have stirred the Custodes into action, sending many shield companies into the stars to squash the burgeoning attack forces and great enemy before they can fester in their greater threats. It is a vexing task. There are enemies at every gate. Necrons are awaking, Tyranids are spreading with some cults bent on infecting Holy Terra itself. There's several hints at that in this book, if you look. A Fool of a Took, by hook or by crook. Some shield
Are you going to
companies,
bust into a musical?
some shield companies have been sent by Trajan Valoris on missions of high importance. A force of Custodes is tracking down the escaped prisoner Cypher across the Cicatrix Maledictum, thanks to the assistance of the Sisters of Silence, who should probably be in the Codex, though they are pursued.
Rabble.
They are pursued by an unmarked battle barge. Ooh. Another group has been directed to return to Cadia, but their mission is, for the time being, unknown. So I love that idea that you just glue some Sisters of Silence to the prow of your spaceship and you can fly through the Cicatrix Maledictum with no problem. So that's a thing.
Okay.
That's a thing you can do. That's good. I like that.
You get a couple companies in there, and you'll be fine.
Super
Nothing's getting in
good.
that thing.
Too bad you can't play with each other because you're not in the same codex, though. So this
Shut up. Yes, you can.
You're right. You can. I'm lying. All right. That was a lot. That was a lot to digest. I really like the lore of these guys. I'm glad that it's been expanded. Do you guys think that they missed anything? Any big, it's pretty shallow, I would have to say. They did a good job, but it is still pretty shallow. There's lots to flesh out, for sure. But that's to be expected. It's a brand new faction. Yes, they've been around for a little while. as a fighting force from 7th edition, but it's still nothing compared to the 20 years of like codexes that the Space Marines have. So give them a break. But I personally can't wait to see flying rhinos, but that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was, it's the foundation. It's the groundwork. We got to see it in some of the Black Library books. They talk about why they didn't get involved in some of the, specifically like the Beast Arises, because there was no threat to the Emperor himself.
Yes.
If there was, they would have acted, but that's who they're protecting. They very much made that a very clear line. They are the Emperor's bodyguards. So if they have to choose between the two, they'll choose the Emperor over the Imperium. Now, if they can serve the Imperium, they will, but that's not their, they're not an Imperial Guardsman or part of the Astra Militarum where that is their job.
Right. Right.
So I think they laid that out really well. I'm of the mind that I was really, really upset when the Sisters of Silence weren't included. And having gone back and re-listened to some of the audiobooks, I think that it was very intentional now. I don't think it was just an oversight. At least this is me hoping that we get to see it flushed out. Because there's a very big point where in Watches of the Throne, it's told from 3 different perspectives. And as the story goes on, they get closer and closer to being weaved together. And there's a point where the Custodians realize they cannot fight nearly as well as a military force without the Sisters of Silence. One-on-one combat, they're fine. But if they're going to be fighting a war, there's an integral piece that they're missing. So I know for some people, you get all these great, happy, shiny toys, which are awesome. The models are insane, but I wish that we could have seen, even if they had only started with, a unit or two, an HQ, I think that would have been awesome. Now, in 6 months to a year, we may get a full-fledged book for them, and then that'll be awesome because now they're going to be their own, force, and you can forge a narrative with them together or separate. It's up there. But that's the only thing I miss seeing out of the Codex. But overall, I'm beyond happy and excited to be playing with it. So.
Right. And you know what? Now that we joke about it, but given time to consider it now, and after what you just said, I kind of get it, because the Custodes stayed homebodies for a long time, whereas the Sisters of Silence have been in active duty for a long time. They've been out in the galaxy doing... I mean, they did make it clear that the Custodes haven't just been sitting around, but the Sisters of Silence are always out there, always working. They don't just sit around the palace moping. So... Well... Sort of. But they man the black ships, right?
Yeah, so the Sisters of Silence, the Null Maidens, how they existed in 30K and how they play in 30K is not quite the same as 40K.
Oh, okay.
A lot of their orders were disbanded and they were sent to go work on black ships. So there's actually an instance where you have Null Maidens from a convent that basically was excommunicated for all intents and purposes, meeting up with Null Maidens who work on a black ship, and they're like, "What? You think you're better than me? Like, you think you're better than me?" So it actually forged a really, like, I love that interaction, because it wasn't that, oh man, we're the best friends because we both do the same thing. Like, there was actual resentment of, why did my friends die alone and you live this life of luxury because of it? So I guess at the end of the day, what I'm hoping for is for them to continue the story and keep going with it. I know at one point in time I'm not sure if it was officially confirmed or if it was hey, I want to do it. But Chris Wright wants to write more of the Watcher, or Watches of the Throne trilogy, which is, like I said, that's the reason why I'm playing this army. So yeah, it's worth listening to. If you have Audible, it's 1 credit. If you don't like Audible, go buy the book. It's awesome. So
awesome. That's great. That's a good look. All right. So why don't we take a quick break? We're going to come back. We're talking about Custodes in the lore on your tabletop and in the hobby.
Come here, boy. Get the ball. Come on, Max. Get the ball. Mom, Max won't get the ball. He's lazy.
I think I know why your Zote is being lazy, Jenny.
Why, Mom?
Because you forgot to feed him his Zotabix today.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Zotabix contains all the nutrients and random animal parts a growing Zote craves. It not only provides our Zote with the energy it needs to play with you and protect our home, but it also keeps its chitinous shell fresh and shiny.
Oh, boy. I'd better feed Max his Zotabix.
Yes, you had.
Zotabix is made in part from grade
Max,
A
time for
Astra
dinner.
Militarum post-engagement byproduct and is infused with 112 essential vitamins
No,
and
Max,
minerals
down.
harvested from your Zote's natural habitat, the finest desert depths.
Ah!
Zotabix is available in any shopping center on worlds where Zotes are allowed or where the Imperium's inexorable influence has not yet reached. Greetings, mofos.
Are you out of George Dickel number 8, staring at a broken chess machine?
Well, don't want to spend the rest of the year tied to that couch.
Well, why don't you head on over to the 1 Hour a Night Facebook page and see what exciting stuff is going on there. It's a place to post all your daily progress in the hobby grind, as well as receive and give positive feedback. Also, there are usually a few interesting challenges going on.
That's right. All you have to do is search for 1 hour a night on Facebook. That's numeral 1 hour a night, all one word. Blood serum tests will be administered prior to approval.
Se til helvete og kom dere vekk. Det er ikke ei bikkje, det er en slags ting. Den imiterer ei bikkje, men det er ikke det. Kom dere vekk, idioter!
What he said.
Okay, Jordan. Tell us about gold. Gold!
I love gold.
What's your formula right now?
So, mine it's incredibly simple and super easy.
Okay.
I was actually talking in the NPC Discord group about it with someone earlier today. So GW came out with a Retributor gold armor spray.
Nice shout out, by the way. Well done.
Yes, very nice.
Which plug? Both of them? One of them?
I
Yes.
mean,
Okay.
yes.
So when it came out, I was out talking to my local manager here, who I've known almost 20 years. Fantastic guy. And we were talking about it, and he goes, if you want to try it, he goes, primer it black first. I was like, well, looking at the can, isn't this supposed to be a primer? He goes, it'll work, but just trust me, it'll look better. Okay. If Jared is a fantastic guy, if he's telling me to do this, okay, cool, I'll try it. So I came home, primed one of the models black, did a quick couple dustings with the gold. It's almost done. I could put it on the table and it's tabletop quality. I've seen other people who just sprayed it straight gold, and it looks like they did that. They just put on a layer of gold. I don't know what sort of weird, sorcery Games Workshop has done on this spray paint, but it is awesome. I've gone through half a can across, we'll say 60 infantry, 5 dreadnoughts. So I'm getting my money's out of it. It is more expensive, so you are investing in it, but holy crap, it saves you so much time. So after I spray it gold, I actually start with a Athonian camo shade wash. That's the greenish brown wash that Games Workshop makes. I mix that down 1-to-1 and then just coat the whole entire model with it, let it dry.
Can I break in?
Go back.
Can I break in?
Yeah.
So I've always heard about green as kind of a shade for gold in general. Did you pick that because of that old adage, or because you have green in your, your spot colors?
No, I actually, I went through about 10 different models, just trying different things.
Mm-hmm.
And way back in the day, I had painted a Blood Angel army when I was working at my local GW, and we did a command squad in gold armor, and we mixed up. I mean, this is back when they had ink, so we mixed up a green ink with the brown ink, and then did that as a wash for the recesses, and that gives it a used look without looking weathered. So it adds a little bit of age to it, and it adds a lot of depth to it really, really quickly. Yeah. So the next thing I do is actually a purple wash.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up using some matte medium for it, but it's like 4 parts matte medium, 1 part Leviathan purple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the purple wash. And I mix it up just in a huge art eyedropper bottle, and I completely coat the model. Just give it a slathering, and that gives it just a light purple hue. Go back with another dry brush, and then just do some line highlight in silver, and the armor's done.
Very nice.
It is. I posted a picture of it earlier today in the group. I haven't done the line highlights yet, but it's quick. I busted out 45 infantry in 3 nights of painting. I mean, the longest part is waiting for the wash to dry when doing this.
Yeah, dude, that looks beautiful. That looks pro shit right there.
And I haven't, touched, I used, the large wash brush and the large flat dry brush.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I've used so far on them.
Gorgeous.
I've seen some other people have used like the scale 75 colors because those are really great for airbrushing. I haven't used those myself, so I'm not quite sure, how those work and kind of the steps you have to go through for it. There's some of the guys who are like commission painters, like Dave Sampson over at Black Label Painting. He has a Patreon group where he showed how he did his black and his gold, because he did a commission for an all black Custodes army that looks absolutely incredible, and it's dirt quick. There's another gentleman, and I don't remember his name offhand, but he did a black style Custode army where all he did was just dry brush it with the dry paint Griffin Gold, and he just did a couple thin layers on it, and it looks like this super heavy, like rusted out gold black armor. It just looks absolutely amazing. And he's like, yeah, I dry brushed it twice and that's it.
So I assume, you've got a metallic highlight on metallic here and some beautiful color transitions for the gold. I assume you're going to hit that with a clear coat before you move on and start doing details.
Yep. Yeah. What I'm going to actually try is doing a satin coat over it.
Yeah.
One of my buddies was telling me about the advantages of using satin over matte if you're going to be doing some like detail work.
Yeah.
So I'll give that a try.
Honestly, Jordan, I rock out with a gloss. I go straight to gloss.
You go full gloss?
I go full gloss, yeah. Just because of, okay, your buddy's probably right. You probably should do satin. But I am so paranoid. I'm just like, yeah, I'm hitting it with this gloss, and it's gonna be like you can throw a brick at it and it's fine, because I find that the tester's dull coat still dulls it enough for me. I'm not sure for others, especially considering I don't think it would work if you want a really dull look. I think you're better off going with the satin, because it's only a matter of time before you have too much clear coat on something before it's going to always look glossy no matter what you put on it.
Yeah.
So.
And that, that can get tricky. I think especially for people who are doing the gold custodians,
mm-hmm.
I think bases are going to have a lot to do with what, how your army is going to look. I know there are a lot of people who just kind of overlook bases because they're the things that they stand on, but I think it can add a lot of depth to a model, because if you look at some of the studio custodians, they're gold with a little bit of silver accent, and then some gems, a little bit of leather, maybe a piece of cloak, and that's about it. So it's a lot of just, in this case, gold. So finding something that can break it up. I've seen people who've done like natural, muds and swamp looking bases. Mm-hmm. I've seen people do more city oriented things. Anything you can do to separate the gold from the rest of the gold, I think is really what's going to make those models just absolutely shine from a hobby perspective.
The simpler your scheme, I think the more important the frame is. That's why I chose, for my Agents of the Imperium, that's why I chose the city terrain the city bases, because I feel like a busy texture with a monochrome on it is a great way to separate those smooth lines of the Space Marines and the Imperial Knights. So like not just color contrast, but texture contrast as well. I don't think I'd ever do that with my orcs. My orcs are a simple brown, like sand with brown paint, dry brushed, very simple, because the orcs are so busy. They're so busy, and I'm kind of like going with the opposite there. I think you're absolutely right. Your frame is as important as a part to your scheme as anything else. I think I've seen some very unfortunate browns from Games Workshop every once in a while where the model gets lost in the base sometimes. I can understand why, like, especially if you have 20-year-old models that you have to match with your brand new models. Like, you can't really do much else, but keep that. Don't let your model get lost in the base. That's a great tip for people. Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. So what do you think as far as so far? I mean, I know that you probably haven't had a chance to get very many games in, but have you been like playing with ideas for like putting together like how you would play them in narrative games, or like just in general, like what it would look like to field a force of custodes?
Yes. I've built probably 3 dozen army lists in the past week.
Nice.
Just trying to see, what I can do and how I can fit them in. And the big thing for me is, what can I use from my 30K force and my 40K force? Like a lot of people, I'm still, waiting on bated breath for Forge World to put out, because they told us they were going to release some of them, but some of the Forge World kits for use in 40K. I'm hoping for some of the transports, just because I'd like to be able to get there a little quicker. And all of my
not
land
spend
raiders
400 points.
Well, no, I mean realistically, that transport's going to be probably 500 to 600 points. If it does in 40K what it does in 30K, it's going to be as expensive, if not more, than a Land Raider. But it's like right now, all my Land Raiders are gray because they're going to be in my Red Scorpions, and it's like, well, I could take it, but I've already started painting it for this other project, so I don't really want to, steal from Peter to pay Paul. Yeah. And with the new kits coming out, I didn't want to be like, oh, well, I'll go grab this, Land Raider that I have 8 of that are, currently primed and, waiting for color.
Yeah.
So I don't have any of the Land Raiders yet. I have a handful of Dreadnought, but they're all the 30K version. So the guys with sword and shield and the duders with the spears. So I've, incorporated one of the lists I had using them as, count as, because it's a Custodian Dreadnought. It's just the arms aren't quite right. The biggest thing I found is, and one of the things I loved about the new 8th edition, is command points.
Yeah.
This is an army where you ain't going to get any. Like, it's not going to happen. The average I've been seeing from lists, from poking around on a couple different forums, is going to be about 7 command points.
Right. And I assume that's filling out like elite like filling out one battalion and maybe some elite detachments with a bunch of HQs and characters and stuff?
Yeah, I've seen it where it's either going to be the Supreme Command, the Vanguard or the Spearhead, the Vanguard or the Outrider. Because people are like, oh man, these bikes are awesome. And they are. They're really cool.
Yeah.
The biggest thing as far as building an army is, it really comes down to what you're going to want your army to do.
Yeah.
You can build, the all bike list, which I think would look incredibly awesome on the table.
I bet.
But it's not going to do so well.
So the bikes, I'm actually like, remember the crazy list I want to do, the Space Wolf and Dark Angel list? Now I'm like, well, I probably should put some Custodes on bikes in there too. So then I can have that's the reason the Space Wolves and the Dark Angels are working together, because the Custodes came and they were like, hey bros, check it out. This terrible thing's happening. We need to all ride together and ride free, and kill a bunch of chaos dudes, and then they can bro fist. And I don't think my wallet could handle that though, Jordan. I think there might be problems in my marriage if I did that.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing. You're talking about 4 boxes of bikes. And that'll get you an Outrider detachment. That'll be 3 units of 3, 1 HQ, and then you'll have 2 models left over
for orcs, obviously.
Yeah, I mean that's because. Can you imagine a mech boy on one of these?
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I need a mech. I need a big mech with a custom force field on a bike. I need a big mech on a bike with a shock attack gun. So I might as well just go. There's 2 guys right there.
Yeah. So there and see, now you've used all the models in the boxes.
Excellent.
And you're done. But it's just, it's kind of how you want to build it. One of the things that I'm going to build, the army that I'm actively painting, I kind of sat down and looked at all my lists and figured out which one I thought would be the most fun to do, is actually based around one of the stratagems called Unleash the Lion, which is it's 2 command points to use, and you select one of your units of Alaris Custodians on the battlefield. The unit is immediately separated into each unit containing a single model.
Oh.
So
and that's literally what the Custodes are.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was kind of why I picked it. So the thing I like about it is it's at the beginning of your movement phase, so you can't deep strike and then do this, because that would just be too much. Look, I'm going to drop this here, and look, it's now 10 units,
and everybody gets to assault.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, okay, I built a 5-man unit. They're all carrying the super cool axes, because axes. So I'm going to take them, and that's kind of, I want to play with that for a while to see what it can do. Backing them up, I have 2 shield captains, 2 of the Vexilers, the standard, and then 20 custodians.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, I love that. I love it. That is so cool. And I think having a bunch of, boots on the ground is going to be a big deal. That's going to be important. Especially if you're not allying with Imperial Guard or whatever. Having boots on the ground is going to be key. Faux show.
Yeah. And they're, if you run them as a Battle-Forged army, which, if you're going to be playing them, there's no point not to do it.
Yeah.
The advantages that they get are just absolutely insane.
Yeah.
They all have, or all their invulnerable saves, if they have them, go up by 1.
Sweet.
For me, because I'm not a good general. I'm a very poor general, and my dice hate me. But I like playing with my toys.
Yeah.
It's called Sworn Guardians. It allows anything in your army can't speak English. they can take objectives. So if I run those Terminators and split them into 5 individual Terminators that are, just running around the field, they can run up to, a conscript platoon and they can take the objective because they're a MFing custodian. Like they don't, what are these mortal things? Like they can do that.
Uh-huh.
So I think it really does capitalize on their, who they are and kind of that elite mentality to them. I either like to play super elite armies or massive horde armies. So it's kind of that thing of like, okay, I'm on my super elite kick. I'm pretty sure by the time I'm done painting these, I'm going to go right back to my orcs.
Nice, man.
Because, orcs.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, nothing makes you want to paint an orc like painting anything else. Honestly. Okay, great. Well, that's cool. Thank you so much for giving us that rundown because we're absolutely clueless. So I did do a extensive 3-game campaign for this episode, but we've been talking for 2 hours. So why don't I kind of go over the highlights and you guys can comment if you like, but we'll give our listeners the choice as to whether or not they want to go ahead and download it and give it a try. So I thought, okay, so why don't we do a nice 3-game campaign where a Custodes player can get a friend and play. I didn't mean it like that.
Hey, look, we're no longer friends. You're playing Custodes.
Yeah. And have them play through a campaign. Now, the way I'm kind of shaping these narrative campaigns for the show now is kind of like, I'm assuming a lot of the Games Workshop's narrative stuff recently has been for people who, I think that it's been for people who are novices at narrative gaming. Because the missions are very clear cut and they help people out a lot. I think anybody who's listening to this is probably fine with more generic victory conditions. It kind of that, like you should be able to fill in the holes yourself. For example, I didn't put in a specific antagonist for this narrative because I'm assuming we can give you generic rules and you can figure out more specific stuff for your army. So I was thinking for this one, it would be based on kind of a, one of the eyes of the Emperor has found some kind of long lost relic of the Imperium, that it has resurfaced on a shrine world, but this world has fallen into enemy hands. And it'll be up to the Custodes to eliminate that threat and collect the relic. A very simple, that's a very generic kind of storyline, but you can fill in the blanks where you want. Okay, it'll really depend. Like you may want your army to be based on the what do you call them? The Aquilin shit. No. The Dread Host. You may want your models to represent the Dread Host because they're kind of the crusading faction, but you might not. Might want them to be something else entirely. You never know. Perhaps they're like the Shadow dudes. I'm sure that's exactly what they're called. The Shadow Keepers. Maybe they're Shadow Keepers who, much like the Dementors, when Sirius Black escaped, went out to go get him. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe it's a group of like Dark Eldar who stole a relic from the Imperial Palace and they've come to collect their due, right? So just think about it from the perspective of your army. So I have done a few interesting special rules for this that exemplify kind of the special abilities of the custodes for this, or someone who's fighting against custodes. A lot to do, like kind of bringing back challenges in a way. You'll have to read it to find out. Not really but kind of expanding on glorious intervention for the antagonist. Like nobody's gonna tell me what to do. I'll fight this guy. I have no problem. So stuff like that. Now, one interesting thing that I added for this one is the concept of secret objectives. So every mission, the antagonist gets secret objectives. So you're going to have a deck of regular playing cards. You're going to pick whichever suit you want that best suits your army, and you're going to take out the ace through the 6. And then each mission adds 2 cards. So the first mission adds 8 and 9, then 10 and Jack, and then Queen and King at the end. And each card does something different. And every time you play, you draw 3 cards, and you need to do one of those secret mission objectives. You want to try for all 3. If you get all 3, then you consider yourself to be super successful. If you only get 1, it's more of a Pyrrhic victory. It's really up to you to write that narrative. Again, the victory conditions are very loose in this campaign system, and intentionally so. So, for example, I'll just give one. 3. Seize him. Reveal this card when an Adeptus Custodes character has been destroyed. Place an objective marker where that character fell. Score this objective if you are holding that objective at the end of the game. You are not required to play this objective until you have killed a character you want to capture. So if you kill a character, you're like, well, no, it wasn't that guy. I'm going for the other guy. Your opponent may not use that character or any relics they were carrying in the next game. In your next game, place an objective in your deployment zone to represent this character. If the Adeptus Custodes player can capture this objective, they have rescued the character. So, fun stuff like that, right? The additional objectives in each of the missions kind of reflect that mission, even though you could get it later, and is generic. It better suits that mission. So the first mission has fortification in it because you're trying to the custodes are coming in and they're trying to destroy this shield that they can't teleport through. So they have to run in and try to destroy this barrier, which is a fortification. One of the special missions is Vengeance Protocols. Score this objective when one of your own fortifications is destroyed. When this happens, reveal this card. Any models within 6 inches of the fortification are immediately slain before any other activity occurs. Any abilities which trigger when a model is destroyed or removed should be resolved as normal. So it's kind of taking this idea of the objective also being a special rule in the game. So it's a very simple one, and it's kind of a clumsy objective. It's a clumsy rule on my part, but I'm trying to explore the idea of wrapping objectives and special effects together. So instead of I have victory points at the end of the game, there's a consequence for scoring that objective, which gives you a benefit in the game, if you take my meaning.
Okay.
So it's interesting. I'm trying to kind of start to mix those things, and I know that some of the listeners out there might have cool ideas on how to do that and how to start putting those things together. And scoring this objective has a real and measurable effect in the game. There's also at least 2 stratagems in each of the missions. Usually involved with the specific mission. So, for example, the third mission involves an escape. So the attacker in that scenario which could either be the Custodes or the antagonist, depending on how well they've been doing in the campaign. For 2 command points, the defender can use the implacable withdrawal stratagem, and they can pick a unit to enjoy +2 to its saves until the start of their next turn. I have found the escape scenarios to be very difficult for anybody who is not cheesing it out. So like, oh, I'm just going to take 3 Storm Ravens. Don't be a jerk. Having said that, someone who's being narrative focused and they take a bunch of guys running on foot, running away from an enemy, they tend to get messed up. So that stratagem helps out, I think, especially for Custodes. Like, you're going to be eating plasma on a 3+, I think, or a 2+ still. So that's pretty sweet. Yeah. 3+. Another one is I Have You Now, which is a 2-point attacker stratagem. At the start of your movement phase, one of your units arrives from reserves immediately and can be placed 6 inches of any battlefield edge of your choice, which includes the escape edge. So, like, this unit just shows up at the start of the turn, and that means they can still move, too, because it's at the start of the movement phase instead of the end of the movement phase. So, 2 command points. You're like, ha ha ha, here I am, in your way, mofo. So, what do you guys think? Thoughts? I know that was a quick rundown, but
I had read it before and I really like it.
Yeah.
It's adding more flavor, which is I think a lot of what Ace is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like I think it was the Vengeance Protocol.
Oh yeah.
Where, so I'm gonna have my fortification. I'm gonna put one of your objectives behind it. So you have to come through here, and then I get to, as you're, climbing through the wreckage, I'm gonna blow it up. Now let's see who survives. It's kind of one of those, like, it's a fail-safe button. This thing may not last, so if it does, I'm gonna booby trap it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And keep in mind, though, folks, if you think that's a little harsh, just dudes dying, and it really depends on what's going on in the game. It's all like narrative gaming isn't. You don't have to look at the rules as sacrosanct. In fact, it's encouraged not to. So if your opponent is really down on their luck and they've got those 5 dudes left climbing over the wreckage of your building and they're heading towards your 20 guys that you have left, just don't do it. Or don't
be that guy.
Yeah, or make it mortal wounds instead of models are evaporated or whatever. It's really up to you to play it in a way that's satisfying to both of you. But yeah, guys, please go ahead, go to mastersoftheforge.com and download the PDF. It'll also be linked in the show notes. All right, folks. Also another thing about this. Actually, let's talk about it in the outro. We'll be right back.
Hey, mofos. Are you looking for more Warhammer 40k video content? Well, the Scarred Cast posts regular battle reports as well as tactics and strategy videos. Be sure to check out all the cool hobby content for the avid tabletop wargamer. That's Scarred Cast, Skared, on YouTube.
Hello, everyone. The Masters of the Forge is now a proud member of the NPC, the Narrative Podcast Consortium. Our aim is to inspire your hobby through the rich lore of the 41st millennium. If you enjoy our podcast, then make sure to check out these other awesome shows where you can get coverage on campaigns, Black Library, and all kinds of general topics of the 40k background.
The NGC 40k podcast also provides in-depth campaign coverage, audio dramas, and free-flowing narrative campaign creation.
The Adeptus Terra podcast also features in-depth discussions of the lore and commentary on the hobby.
Oh, and sexy English voices.
Oh, yeah.
The Masters of the Forge brings the world of 40k to life on your tabletop, with discussion on the lore, backed up by narrative-themed rules and battle reports.
Of course, this is only a fraction of the topics covered by the podcasts of the NPC. Please tune in to find out more.
And we're back. Jordan, thank you so much for
And
joining
we're
us.
back.
Thank you so much for joining us, buddy. You made this such a great episode. I really appreciate it. I love it when people add authenticity to our ramblings and jokes and stupid phrasing comments.
I don't know about authentic, but I added something.
And me interrupting Jason every time he says a sentence. Oh, it's like my favorite thing in the world.
Isn't that planned? Like isn't that the shtick? Like
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's totally in the show notes. Like every interjection. Yeah. It's totally he puts up with it, and I appreciate that. So when it comes to these special rules and missions that we do, like I don't playtest hardly any of it because I just don't have time. To be honest, not everybody's going to want to sit there and play test everything. However, I did just start, we had somebody show up at the store who said, well, I'm looking to get into Warhammer. I've been playing with my buddy who lives really far away. We've been using Tabletop Simulator. I'm like, well, I'll have you know that I've been looking for the opportunity to try out Tabletop Simulator for 40K. And my buddy Pat had given it to me in an effort to get us. He gave it to me. He'd gifted it to me through Steam in an effort to get us to play more Kingdom Death Monsters, which we never did. And I think the last thing he wants me to do is play 40K on it, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm hoping that Jason and I can get together and do play games. And I guess they've been using all the Dawn of War 3D models because the models look great. Yeah, they look really good. So I think after I get back from Disney, why don't we get together and try it out, play a couple games, and then think about the ramifications of this for our rules and stuff that we come up with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good idea. Very good idea.
Cool. I like it. I am sure the listeners will appreciate not being total guinea pigs for our ramblings.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's good for them. Builds character.
It's a price of entry.
That's right. Goes along with the admission everyone paid as they downloaded this.
Yes, the paid admission. Okay, great. So again, thanks a lot to Jordan and thanks to Jason for joining me. Next episode is going to be about narrative terrain. It'll be kind of a quicker episode again because we're leaving. But folks, please give us some ideas on what you want to see as far as maybe some special rules or some special rules that you've come up with, and wanna share with others the fun you've been having with the narrative Warzone rules and the stuff that you've come up yourselves. But until then,
play the game the way you want to.
In your face.
Nailed it.
Oh, wait. Live long and prosper.
Yeah, okay. That'll work.
There we go. Got Star Trek in there.
This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial, International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com.
It's such a good feeling to play games your way. It's such a happy feeling 40K'ing away. And when you throw dice with story in mind, it's such a wonderful way to unwind. It's a good feeling, a very good feeling, the feeling you know that we'll be back when the fortnight's new, and we'll have new ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. We will too.